Beautiful, gorgeous day here in Seattle. I told everybody I don't want any kind of complaints whatsoever. None. Go out there and enjoy God's beautiful creation. Okay, we'll start, everybody, as we have in the last month. We're going to start with Word of Tehillim, Book of Psalms, prayer for all the, especially for what's going on in Gaza now, the return of our hostages, and peace in the land of Israel, peace throughout the world. Everybody have in mind the hostages when we say the war should come to an immediate end, with everybody being back home safe, and the whole Eretz Yisrael should be safe. Chapter 20. Lavan Aseh Milvu David, for the conducte psalm by David. May the Lord answer you on the day of distress. May the name of God, of the God of Jacob, fortify you. May he send your help from the sanctuary and support you from Zion. May he remember all your offering and always accept favorably your sacrifices. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill your every counsel. We will rejoice in your deliverance, raise our banners in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your wishes. Now I know that the Lord had delivered his anointed one, answering him from his holy heavens with the mighty saving power of his right hand. Some rely upon chariots, some upon horses, but we rely upon and invoke the name of the Lord our God. They bend and fall, but we rise and stand firm. Lord, deliver us. May the King answer us on the day we call. Now we go to chapter 23. A psalm by David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He lays me down in the green pastures and leads me beside still waters. Revives my soul, he directs me in the path of righteousness for the sake of his name. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they will comfort me. You will prepare a table for me before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me in all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. Concluding book of chapter of Psalms, Rebbe's Kapitel Kuf Chav Dal 124. A song of ascents by David. Were it not for the Lord who was with us, let Israel declare. Were it not for the Lord who was with us when man rose up against us. Then they would have swallowed us alive in their burning rage against us. Then the water would have inundated us, the torrent would have swept over our soul. Then the raging water would have surged over our soul. Blessed is the Lord who did not permit us to pray for their teeth. Our soul is like a bird which had escaped from the fowler's snare, the snare that broke and we escaped. Concluding verse. Our hope is in the name of the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So good to see you all. Today's Pilpul is on the tribe of Levi. It's a powerful discussion on Levi. The more I get into it, the more I see how much there's more to get into. But I want to start with a story which happened today, 65 years ago. Today, 65 years ago. What's today? Today is the 12th day of the month of Sivan, just about a week after Shavuos started. And the days following Shavuos is the 6th day of Sivan, 7th day of Sivan in the diaspora. And then there are the Mei Tashlumim, those days which follow, which are in some way, in the time of the temple, they were also part of the structure of offering of sacrifices and had a certain sanctity. And we don't say Tachnun during our prayers, and it concludes today. 65 years ago, Shavuos was the 200th yard site of the Baal Shem Tov. The holy Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, passed on the day of Shavuos. So 1960, Tov Shin Chaf, marked 200 years since his passing. And the Rebbe in Lady explained at length, which we'll get into a little bit later, about Shavuos, and I mentioned it last week too, has three major historical events. A, revelation at Sinai. We stood at Sinai, received the Ten Commandments, all the Torah which is embodied in Ten Commandments. Later in history was Melech David, King David passed on Shavuos, and the Baal Shem Tov, the holy Baal Shem Tov passed on Shavuos. So 1960, which is 65 years ago, which I remember, I was a boy just passed by mitzvah. And that day, on the 12th, the Rebbe then said all those post-bar mitzvah should walk by the room, the Rebbe's holy cheder room outside the room, and the Rebbe was going to give each one of us a piece of challah from the Farbrengen, from the Hasidic gathering from Shavuos. And then the Rebbe came out and led a Farbrengen, a Hasidic Farbrengen, was still upstairs in that 800,000 square foot shul, was so cramped you couldn't move. And they were beginning to, and the Rebbe said that it was small, I remember, hope that this will be the last time, because they were in the middle of doing the building of downstairs, and also they couldn't go down to the shalash, so they were starting the first leg of the building. So when I walked by, just after about 5 months after my mitzvah, Rebbe gave me a little smile, gave me a smile when he gave me the piece of challah. So to me, that's a special day. I got a smile from the Rebbe walking by right after my mitzvah, and the Rebbe gave me a piece of challah. I was standing, giving everybody challah as they walked by. So I just wanted to share that with you. My history, special day in history of the Jewish people, b'chal, but it was now we have, it's 265 days since Shavuos then, marking 265 years of the holy Baal Shem Tov passing. Footnote in history. Shevet Levi. Now we find about Shevet Levi, the more we go into it, some very, very powerful statements about Shevet Levi. And just over Shabbos, I found a powerful Orach Chaim on Shevet Levi, which I did not send out because I found it over Shabbos. Powerful. I'm going to share it with you. And let's go back in history now. Let's go earlier. Remember there was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, the patriarchs and matriarchs. Well, we know that Jacob, grandson of Abraham, son of Isaac, had a twin, Esau. There was a major problem between Esau and Jacob. And then the rights of the firstborn. Jacob had to leave the home. His mother said, leave now. He traveled, Vayetze Yaakov, back in Genesis. And he traveled to his uncle, Lavan, who went down in history as Lavan Ha'arami. Lavan, the swindler. You know, somebody go down in history, has different names. He went down as a swindler. You know, he fooled Yaakov with his daughters, on and on and on, with other things. he became known historically as Lavan the swindler. Esau was known as Esav Harosha, the wicked one. I once, by a group of rabbis, asked them a question. What's worse to deal with? A Russia, someone who's evil, or someone who's a swindler? I laid it out in front of a bunch of rabbis. You got to deal with one of the two. Who would you prefer to deal with? Someone who's evil or someone who's a swindler? Think about it. So I came to the conclusion, and they all kind of nodded to me, loving is worse. A swindler is worse. You know, with a Russia, you know where you stand. You knew with Esav, you knew exactly where you stood. He didn't smile to you. He didn't go out. You knew exactly you're dealing with Esav. No one was fooled, except his father was not really fooled. As Chassidus explains, Isaac wanted to elevate his son. Okay, Yitzchak on that level, but we all knew who Esav was. His mother knew who he was. The one who gave birth knew who he was. A swindler, the smiley types, and goes around and gives you a knife in the back. One who shakes your hand, it sleaze. As soon as you take off the hand, you don't even know you're taking a hand. The deal's not a deal. You don't know whether you're making a deal or not making a deal. Right, Rabbi Gary? You know what? They got to deal with you got to deal with somebody. That's a hard. And we came to that the rabbinic. And I laid it out there. A bunch of rabbis all looked at me and said, "You know, you're right. I just yeah." That's why it says. By the way, what does it say in the Haggadah? It says, "Loving our army." We don't talk about it. We talk about loving. Talk about loving. Okay. Anyway, so what the story is, we know the story. And he comes and he wants to marry Rachel. Yaakov wants to marry Rachel. But his father-in-law, before he came his father, he was a biological uncle. Rivka's brother swindles and provides him with a different woman that he came to make the deal with, Leah. So now you understand, we just spoke about this, Leah was sad. I always look like, as I get older, I'm sad about Leah. She knew her sister was the preferred one to get married with Yaakov. But she had started having children. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, 2 more boys, a girl. So she felt her relationship with her husband is being cemented stronger and stronger. And I'll share with you the Rechaim on Levi. This is the background about Levi with his 3rd son, Tat Levi. And that's cemented. And when I sat in next to Cave Rochel, I was out by the Mars Machpelah. Last time last time I was there about 2 summers ago, I stood by Leah. I felt Leah's pain. She's buried next to her husband in the Mars Machpelah in Hebron. That's the background. That's where Levi is. Then we come to the Rambam. Says the Rambam, which I shared with you, a Rambam in Hilchot Kochavim, and we spoke about this Rambam with Avraham Avinu, how Avraham came to recognize God. There was no revelation. There wasn't like in the snare, God revealed himself to Moshe. Some kind of Milmaila, there was a revelation, and Moses came, he knew before on some level, but now he was chosen by God. Avraham Avinu took on the whole system, took on the whole world literally, inside his father. With a handler, sold idols. Avraham himself came to recognize the one God. And his life was threatened over and over and over again, but he stood firm. But in addition to that, the Rambam says, after the whole discussion about how he came to recognize God, the first chapter of Hilchot, the first halacha, the whole history lesson, which is a question in itself. Why is Rambam giving us a history lesson? It's a book of law. Mitamol, the Rambam is giving us a history lesson. It's a history lesson. This is a book of law. It's relevant to halacha. Obviously, if the Rambam does it. Then he talks about, he begins to teach his son. Rambam says the following. They started coming around him, Svarim, and the Hidil Yitzchak B'nai. And Avram taught his son. V'yoshev Yitzchak Malamed Amaz, Yitzchak began to teach. V'Yitzchak Hidil Yaakov, Umino Lalamed. Interesting. And Yitzchak, he also taught, and appointed it, he taught Jacob, appointed him as a teacher. That's not a stam aloshin. He appointed Yaakov as a teacher, lelamed, to teach. Every letter, every Yosef of the Rambam is holy. V'yoshev melamed amachal kol anil me'elo. Jacob taught other than turn the hearts of all those who gathered around him to God. Okay? Doesn't say that Avram appointed Yitzchak a melamed, that he informed, he taught his son. Yitzchak doesn't say he appointed him. Hey, but Yaakov, we know he appointed him as a teacher. Then the Rambam continued. Yaakov v'inu limit ban of kulam. Yaakov, teacher, taught all his sons. They had 12 sons. V'hivdu Levi menorash. Right here, the Rambam says he selected Levi and appointed him as the leader. Many people, even the scholars, don't catch. They talk about Yehuda with Malchus. Yehuda is the one where the monarchs come, the kingship. Come, the Mashiach will come out of Shevet Yehuda. Talk about Joseph. Who was one? Hivda Levi Minor Rosh, B'Yeshiva. Levi was the one, appointed by Jacob to be as a teacher. He established him as the head of the academy to teach them the way of God. And to preserve and observe the mitzvah of Avram. And then V'tzivo Esbonov. Jacob commanded his son, a Masorah, a tradition, says the Rambam. Says the Rambam. Yaakov Avinu commanded his son that the leadership should not depart from the descendants of Levi, so that the teaching should not be forgotten. You hear? Levi, remember, through him, they will not be forgotten. Maybe why only him? Through him, they'll not be forgotten. What's in the DNA of Levi that through him will not be forgotten? This concept proceeded and gathered strength among the descendants of Jacob and those who collected around them until they became a nation within the world which knew God. Okay? Right there. Rambam says, Levi. Now, Levi is the whole tribe. We know, by the way, there are the Kohanim, priests, descendants of Aaron, comes from a part of the Levi. Moshe, his brother, Leviim, come from Levi. In the service in the base of Midrash, in the temple, there were the Kohanim, there were the priests, there was Kohen Gadol, the high priest, there were the Levites who were their attendants. Both, as we're going to see from a different Rambam, had a sanctity to them, a unique sanctity to them, which plays out in the halacha later, which we're going to bring down from the Avodat, the Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan, about the priestly blessing, and that the Levi is the one to wash the hands of the Kohen, of the priest. We're going to see a whole halacha, a whole discussion, and there is a disagreement in the wording. The Mishnah Berurah and the Shulchan are really strongly, from the get-go, taking different positions about a certain area in this halacha of the Levi being the one to facilitate the washing of the hand of the Kohen before he goes up to Duchen to give his priestly blessings, which we'll get to that, God willing. Then comes the next step of the Rambam. The Rambam says about Levi, that was good till then. Then suddenly, time Time does things. The Rambam continues with the history. When the Jews' stay in Egypt was extended, after they came down, Jacob came down, but the family came down. Shivim Nefesh, 70 came down. Yosef was the viceroy. Because of the famine, we know the biblical story. Said the Rambam that they stayed longer, they didn't stay, that was it, they were going in. Becoming in some way a quasi-permanent residence for the descendants of Jacob until the time came through Moses, time to leave, Passover. Says the Rambam, the history. When the Jews stay in Egypt was extended, however, they learned from the Egyptians deeds and began worshiping the stars as they did. Nebuch. They were in that environment, under that kind of oppression. Nebuch. Over time, they reverted back to becoming idol worshippers, the descendants of Jacob. Only one did not. Says the Rambam, one tribe, Chutz Meshevet Levi, outside, excluding of the exception of the Levi, Shama ben Mitzvahs Aves, who clung to the mitzvahs of the patriarchs. Umeyelim, says the Rambam, Leovet Shevet Levi Avodat Kochavim. The tribe of Levi never served false idols. Hear that? Only one tribe. The Levi didn't succumb. No. What's the Shaila? The Shaila is, what is it in the Levi? What is it in their DNA? What's in their spiritual dimension? What is in their muhus that they did not? Imagine you have 12 kids, got 100 kids, and one is the one who keeps the Masorah. One is the one who keeps the tradition. One is the one, even though you gave your life for all your children, there's one who carries on the torch for the next generation. Do you sit back at the father and the mother and say, what did we give this one child when we didn't give it to the others? You have paid children, what was it? What is it? What is it that during the war, the Chassidim U'Elam, the righteous among the nations during the war, there were the few who saved the Jews when 95%, 99% did not? What did they have in their core in Europe during the 40s, the 30s, that they were the few who stood up and said, no, you want to understand, what is it? What did they have? Some gene? What kind of gene? What is it in all times through history that there's the few, the very, very few, and you want to model yourself on the few to learn what is it in the few that they had in themselves, the spiritual courage, first the clarity and the spiritual courage to stand up, with a vast majority did not. You want to take, what's the lesson? And Rambam is saying that that's what happened. There was one tribe, the tribe of Levi. That's one Rambam. But now we're going to go to the other Rambams. And here they're going to get even bigger the situation. The Rambam which I bring down, which I sent to you, which is a Hilchot, the laws of Shemitah v'Yovel. The Rebbe mentioned the Rambam a lot. When the Rambam begins to dissect the laws of when we went into Israel and we had to conquer the land. When Joshua took the nation across the Jordan to conquer the land. And then they had to conquer the land, divide the land, develop the land. Of course, they had to know who's getting what kind of land, all the laws about inheritance and all that. The daughter of Slofchad, the daughter who came and said, what's with us? We deserve, our father didn't have sons, what about us? And then came the law that they should get. Biblical. Says the Rambam. The Rambam said at the end, these halachas. Kol Shevet Levi B'Sonah Shel Yem Chabad Canaan. I sent you, it's in your sheet. Chapter 13. Law 10. In Rambam, the entire tribe of Levi are commanded against receiving an inheritance in the land of Canaan. Do you understand that? Kol Shevet Levi Mesodim Shlo Yincholu Be'eretz Canaan. V'chein Hey Mesodim Shlo Yitlu Chele B'Bida B'Shor Shekefin Sa'odim. In addition, they were commanded against receiving a share of the spoil when the cities were conquered. Deuteronomy says, it's a postic in Chumash 10:9. Deuteronomy, the Torah says, written Torah says, the Bible says, the priest and the Levite, the entire tribe of Levi, should not have a portion and an inheritance among Israel. A portion refers of the spoil, inheritance means of the land. In fact, if they took, which is a separate shaila, how could they take? There was a consequence if they took. And if they grabbed a piece of the land, it was taken from them. No, it's not for you. Now, come here, listen, try to understand this. We're told when we leave Egypt, there's going to be steps in our development. The sea splits. We stand at Sinai. We make the deal. We become the Am Nivcha. We become the kingdom of priests. Remember, priests over there, it said too, right? For all of Israel, a holy nation and the kingdom of priests, all are referred to there. And you're coming in now, we're going into the land, we're going into Israel, and Moshe Rabbeinu Nebuch wants to go, and Shem said, no, you're not going. Joshua's taking him over. From Moshe's pleading, let me Epis go in first. No. All Hashem says, I'll show you the land. You're not going in. So the whole anticipation of coming to the land, then they march into the land, and everybody's dividing it, boom, everybody's getting a portion of the holy land of Israel. And here's a whole tribe watching all this. You don't get nothing. You're not getting anything of the land. To the extent that the Rambam has to say, if they grabbed an inheritance, said the Rambam, so you can understand that if the Rambam has said it, it's a normal desire among the Levite to want to have a piece of land. What's with us? What could be with us? Says the Rambam, the halach of 12. That's 10. But there's a reason why you don't get a piece of the land. Says the Rambam, why did the Levites not receive a portion of the inheritance of Israel and the spoil of the war, like their brothers? Why? Because they were set aside, singularly set aside, to serve the Almighty God and minister unto whom and instruct people at large in the just path and righteous judgments. Shenemah, the pastor of the Torah says in Deuteronomy, they will teach judgments to Jacob and your Torah to Israel. As, in a sense, the Rambam said before, when Jacob chose Levi, continuation here. Here comes the point. Therefore, they were set apart from the ways of the world. Ways of the world. Hey, that's the word the Rambam says. They do not wage war like the remainder of the Jewish people. They do not inherit. They nor do they acquire for themselves through their physical power. Elohim Chel Hashem. They are the God's legion. What do you mean? All of Israel is not God's legions. What are we? Chop liver? What are we? Chop liver? We're not God's legion. Only they are God's legion. Shenema Baruch Hashem Chele. Again, God has blessed his legion. I am your portion and your inheritance. I am your portion. I am your inheritance. Almighty God. No, not land, not spoil. Oh, wait a second. Aren't those who march into Egypt wage the battle? Isn't that a mitzvah doing mitzvahs of God? developing the land, making the land holy, bringing all the offerings later on and gets developed to the priests, to the Leviim, bringing sacrifices. I mean, what are we talking about? You think we came down here somewhere in the Sahara Desert over here? This is the Holy Land. And we were entrusted, all have been entrusted, to develop the Holy Land, do mitzvahs, commandments, without yield would come out of the Holy Land. We're farmers, and we do mitzvahs, we're going to give truma, maisa to the Kohen, to the Levi. We're going to bring it to Bikurim, we're going to bring it to Jerusalem. What do you think we're going to do with this land? We're hallowing this land. So they are called, they, meaning the Levi, hey, Michael Hashem. They are God's blessed legion. And what are we? What, we're not God blessed legion. What are we? We're here, we came here just on our own? We floated into Israel. I mean, what happened here? Okay. Keep the question. But then the Rambam comes with a powerful statement. With this, he concludes the section. And the Rebbe makes a tremendous chiddush in this Rambam. Says the Rambam, Shevet Lוי, not only the tribe of Levi, meaning the biological tribe of Levi, but any one of the inhabitants of the world, anyone, says the Rambam. And the Rebbe says, Pshat, anyone means everyone. Everyone. They said the Rambam, anyone whose spirit generously motivates him and he understands with his wisdom, to set himself aside and stand before the Almighty, to serve him and to minister him and to know God. To stand before God, to serve and minister him, to know God, proceeding justly as God made him, removing from his neck the yoke of the many reckoning which people seek, meaning the day-to-day life kind of situation. He is sanctified in the Holy of Holies. God will be his portion and heritage forever, and will provide what is sufficient for him in this world, like he provides for the priests and the Levites. Anybody. And thus David declared, and with this the Rambam concludes, God is the lot of my portion. You are my cup. You support my lot. Blessed be the merciful one who provides the system. The Rambam concludes. Powerful Rambam. Anybody. So wait a second. Anyone means anyone. That's what Rambam says. Never goes into the details more, but the general thrust. So wait. First of all, what does it mean? Now let's get a definition. In addition, well, wait a second. And if I engage, so wait for it. What about, let's take this on a practical thing. What about, according to this Rambam, yeah, I'll push it in halacha. Let's say somebody chooses to live the life of the Levi. He becomes spiritual Levi. Is he then no longer going to have a share in the land of Israel? Because he has now devoted and dedicated himself as the Levi biologically, Rambam says, did not get a share because he had a singular kind of focus now and purpose in life, which is godly, anchored total 150% through his kishkas. And if somebody accepts that mission, so we cut him out from the land, cut him out from all kind of responsibility of land, or desire of land, that's pushing a question in halacha, based on this Rambam. Number two, what does this mean? We are commanded every day, pray to God, make blessings on the food that God gave you, on and on and on and on. The Masorah, the tradition talks about the godly awareness that we have to live our lives. We're not separate from God. We have to live a godly. What did the Rambam write? In Hilchot Deis. The The Rambam says, the Pasuk says, walk in thy ways, in God's ways. He is kind, you're kind. He's holy, you're holy. That's the Rambam's lashon in Hilchot Deis. So that's a comment about everybody. What's unique about the Levi? I mean, how are you supposed to live your life? Somebody who's really, knows and learns and lives, is guided. I remember a person once told me, a very devout individual, sat with me a long time. He's now up 80, close to 90. Good man. Bob Chrisman. Devout person. As a rabbi, I am guided every step of my life. I want to do God's will. I just looked, that was every time I walk my walk, I'm trying to be we're all made in the image of God. He didn't say those words. Oh, we're all made in the image of God. Everyone here is made in the image of God. What's the uniqueness? What's the unique? We all a pious person. We know people like that. Not many. They're not lining up and knocking on doors, but there are people who are they're guided. He also said to me, I'll never forget what he said to me, Bob Chrisman. Where are you, Bob? Good man. He once told me, when I first met him, I told the story to you. He once told me, are you a follower of Rabbi Schneerson? When I met him, I was shocked. This is going back 35 years ago, 38, 39. How do you know Rabbi Schneerson? I asked him. I see the rabbi. That was then, his verbrennings were on cable. It was a time when the Rebbe was on cable. The whole issue with the Rebbe was, for a short time, I saw the Rebbe on cable. Years later, he had a senior position in the federal government. He said to me, sitting with me, talking calmly, my biggest regret in life, Rabbi, I didn't travel to New York to see Rabbi Schneerson. That's a quote from him. I didn't travel to New York to see Rabbi Schneerson. Because you could have gone over, everybody could have gone over then on Sundays to get $1 from the Rebbe to become an agent to give out charity. He told me, I live my life by the word of God. That's a heavy statement. I never said that to anybody. I don't know. That's a heavy one to say. Person that says that like that. That's really, that's a different kind of level. So then what is this deal with the Levi? Like I said, the Rambam says in Deis, emulate God. That's for everybody. You have to emulate God. You have to try to emulate God. Should I not? Should I not? No, what? Is this right? Not. We want to live that kind of a life. So we have the Rambams. And then I'm going to share with you a story. That it's a story, to me, you talk about a holy Rebbe. This is a story of the fourth Rebbe, Rebbe Marash. So I'm going to read it from it in Yom Yom. He had a chassid by the name of Ella Bella. I'm a little bit. Ella Bella is my paternal grandmother's maternal grandfather. My paternal grandmother, Baba Shenu, who died in the Vilna ghetto. Her mother's mother was Rebbe Ella Bella. In the story of Ella Bella, there are a few stories between him and the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe. Listen to the story. In English, this is the 16th of Iyar in Hayom Yom, the first sefer the Rebbe authored back in the 40s. In terms of scholarship and aptitude, the chassid Reb Ella Abella was more of a simple person. Once, when he came into Yechidus, private audience with my grandfather, said the previous Rebbe, says about his grandfather, the fourth Rebbe, said to him, Elia, I envy you. The Rebbe says to Ella Bella, I envy you. You were the businessman, a seicha. You travel to various fairs, you meet many people. Sometimes in the middle of a business transaction, you get into a warm discussion about a Jewish saying, a saying from Ein Yankiv, which is based on the Talmud, etc., and you arouse the other person's interest in studying Torah, Gigla, the Reveal, Talmud, Halacha, Chassidic philosophy. This causes joy on high, and the Almighty rewards such trade, quote, trade, business, with the blessings of children, health, and sustenance. The larger the fair, the more work there is, and the greater is the livelihood earned. Says the Rebbe Maras Ella Bella. Says, what's said to the Rebbe, the Holy of Holies, is saying, it's where you're at, Ella Bella. You're in business, you're a handler, and in the course of your day of handling, when you deal, you're doing business deals, okay? Traveling to fair, this was before Amazon, you can buy online, get everything delivered. You got to travel to the fair, right? At such a time, you got to go out into the streets and make a deal. And there, you talk a word of God, you talk about someone about telling a word of Torah. Says the Rebbe Marash, I envy you. Why Rebbe Marash, I envy him? Because that reality of life where Elia Belli is as a businessman, the Rebbe was not a businessman per se like that. So he went into an environment where only he could influence because he's in that environment. So the Rebbe says to him, I envy you. So let me ask you, is the Levi the one with all that? Or the ones who are humbling on the streets, the ones who developed the land, the ones who are going to the markets, the ones who were the farmers in Israel, raise it all up, and they're going out and they're making it holy. So let's flip it. Maybe the Levites have to have the respect for those who are working day in and day out and toiling in the fields, and they meet people, they talk Torah, they talk, they give tzedakah, and they've conflicted with all the things which go on, yet they are strong. Maybe it's there. The Rebbe said that to Elia Bella. That's where it's at. Let's model that. Why model the Levi who's removed from the world? Model the Elia Bella who is in the world and conducts himself properly and brings God there. Maybe that's the model. All right. Now comes the Rebbe's word. The Shvi, the generation which we're in now, this is what the Rebbe brought to Klal Yisrael. And we're in 3 weeks before the Rebbe's Yortzeit, Gimel Tammuz, in the powerful discussion from the Rebbe on 2 concepts found. Says, I sent it to you. Kol ma'asech l'shem shemayim. A. Kol derechechadeu hu yasher chesecha, a quote from Proverbs. Kol ma'asech l'shem shemayim means I'm a businessman. I'm not a businessman. I'm a professional. I'm a scientist. And, of course, Rabbi, I'm giving my charity. Not only 10%, I'm giving 20%. I'm giving more. I'm giving whatever anybody needs. My house is open. My house is open. I do it all. The guest. I'm there, Rabbi. I'm providing. I'm there. But I'm a scientist. I recognize being a scientist, being a professional, being a laborer, being an auto mechanic, it's irrelevant. I bring home, provide for my children, for my family, which is Torah. I have an obligation to provide for my family, for myself. That itself is a mitzvah. But also my intent. Whatever I'm going to earn, I'm going to give my share. I'm going to help the poor. On and on and on. But there's that, me and that. In all thy ways, know God. It's not I am and I do. In every element of life, I know God. Not the pshat. I'm working in order to give charity. I'm working to be able to have guests. I'm working in order to have an open home and take in the orphans from the street. I'm open because I have to give for those Nebuchadnezzar who need psychological help, especially at times like they. I'm there, Rabbi, by their side. every step of my life is God-oriented. In all my ways, I know thee. I know thee. When I get up in the morning, I get dressed, I know thee. It's all that godly anchor. That's a different kind of a level. Then I am this, and I participate, and I know, and I give. I recognize, I have the godly image. I have a piece of God in me, my soul. That is who I am. That's what I am. That's who am I? I'm the Tselem Elokim. I'm the image of God. That's who I am. And that pulsates. And every nitty gritty of my life, it flows naturally for me. When that person, that woman or that man walks in the street, people sit back and go, whoa, that's a different person. I don't know. I don't know who that person is, but I can tell you something else just by looking at her, the way she is, the way he is. I see something totally different. I see something different. The Levi now comes a vod from the Kochavim. But I took, then we're going to hopefully we get to the machlekes from the different positions. And then I told you about the Mishnah Berurah and the Chashulchan. Alter Rebbe trying to bridges both. What happened? We're talking about, this is the Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim said, we had the sons. Listen to the Orach Chaim. Oh. Okay, we have Leah. Leah had 3 sons, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. She gives names to the sons. There's discussions, what the names represent. Comes Levi, the 3rd son, says the Torah, this is in Bereshis, Genesis 29, verse 34. Again, she conceived and bore a son. She says the following, Hapam yelov ishi elai. This time my husband will become attached to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore, he, not she, called his name Levi. My husband will become attached to me. Okay? Says Rashi, Hapam yelov ishi. This time my husband will become attached. Since the matriarchs and prophetess, they knew that there would be 12 tribes, and he knew there'd be 4 wives. And she said, now that I have 3, Jacob has no cause, my husband, to have a complaint against me, for I have taken my full share of sons. I produced my share of sons. I have 4 wives, 3 sons. I did my job. Therefore, says Rashi, as that Koshme Levi, says Rashi, listen to Avodat, a medrash, a Godic medrash that explains, the Holy One, blessed be he, sent angel Gabriel, and Gabriel brought the baby for him, Levi, the baby, to God. Who called him Levi? He called the baby by the name of Levi. God called him Levi. Reuben and Shimon Yehuda was the mother called. Here, this is a godly name. And he gave him 24 gifts of priesthood. Because Gabriel accompanied the baby with gifts, called him Levi, means to accompany. But who named the baby? God named the baby. God named Levi. Keep that in mind. Now comes the Orach Chaim about Levi. Oh, this one says, okay, Nebuchadnezzar had to go through the feelings of knowing that, Jacob wanted Rachel, married her, whatever. 1 son, 2 sons, 3, he said as follows. That 3 cemented the marriage. Then she says 1, it says 1 over some, 1 the other. Listen to this. Leah also had another deep intention when she said, this time my husband will become attached to me with the birth of Levi. Namely, that since she was his legitimate mate, 3 children, she would not be separated from him even at the time of a departure from this world, even in the world to come. The rabbi said, this is in accordance with the statement of the sages. The Zohar brings down the Kochavim that married couple will always accompany each other into the upper world. Ba'amra, to justify her confidence about this matter, she stated, the reason not for I have borne him 3 sons. This guarantees me a place alongside Jacob in the next world because 3 sons is proof that I am his intended mate. You hear that? Leah, you love Ishi, will be attached to me not only in this world, but in the world to come. She felt after 3 boys, I'm really the one. It wasn't just happenings. And not only in this world, but in that world. What a powerful statement. The Yelova, the Levi, the attachment, the oneness is not only there, but there above. It's here, physical, and in the spiritual world, says Leah, I'm one. Maybe we could say, maybe, it's my own thought, that she ended up being buried in the Ma'at HaMachpelah. Maybe. I'm not in a power to say that. Just laying it out there. You know what it means to say that? She reached a level in her security and self-worth. I'm the one that's there with Boah. I'm the one attached to Jacob. Yeah, I'm the one. I'm not a happenings what happened by the way kind of deal. Oh, no. Levi, the attachment, this world, that one. God gave the name. God gave the name Levi. So what's it as we round this out? What does the Rambam mean? Anybody become a Levi? What's the fundamental issue here? You know, I want to say this right. You go out into the big world, there's a world. Not a world, there is a world out there. Yeah. But there's different kind of glasses. You got glass A, glass B, glass C. Okay. This way you feel, the way you project, especially in times like today, where people feel a little bit insecure, maybe not even a little bit, or more than that. They're getting shaken up by themselves as Jews, what's happening, anti-Semitism, and it's legitimate. The land of Israel, what's happening, get a little bit insecure in yourself. So this Shavuos, I told the story around my table. I think some of the people who heard it are on the line. And they came over to me, a few people. Not because I'm some tzaddik, I'm not. It's a question about who you are to project. And then I'm going to go over to the halacha. You stick with me. I want to give you that word in halacha from the Mishnah Berurah, the Chashulchan who disagree. Now, which is more in between the positions. So I used to lecture at Seattle Prep. Some of you online know that, right? I was a lecturer for 20 years, 25 years. Seattle Prep for the private school to Jesuits. They were doing a class on comparative religion. They were doing a class on Chaim Potuk's book, The Chosen, about Hasidic life. So they wanted to do me indirectly. They wanted a live chassid. I lectured there between 20 and 25 years. Small group. The whole discussion. We got letters, part of letters. Some of you have seen some of them. I remember one time in the new audience, I made a presentation 45 minutes, and there were questions 45 minutes, an hour and a half. And here I'm on a high podium. By the end, I was showing them videos of the Rebbe. I was singing the Paltavanig in my eyes closed. Imagine that. Bianca multiple times, forgive me, but I'm singing your song right here. But I remember this one real good. After I was done bringing the presentation of validation and love and acceptance and spirituality, the Chassidus teaches, everybody has a soul. The first question out of the gate, a young fellow all the way on top says, Rabbi, well, if that's the case, based on what you said, how do you explain the Palestinian situation? Just like that, boom, right out of the gate. I didn't hesitate 1/4 of a second. You know, because if you hesitate, you're dead right there. I said, I'm going to answer that question right in front of her. And that room went so quiet. I mean, you're talking about quiet. All the teachers, all the religious staff are looking at me like, because he went right the first question. I said, if anybody in this big auditorium, I went around like this, and I'm on a podium, I'm like, whoa, 200 people in that room, can guarantee me that a two-state solution would have a border like I went this north, like the USA and Canada, and I went like that. That's the kind of border we would have. I guarantee you all that I'll fly to Jerusalem and I'll negotiate that deal one afternoon. Full disclosure, I will not vote for the deal I negotiate for my religious reasons. But I'll negotiate the deal. Can anybody guarantee me that kind of a border? Anybody in this room? It's quiet. Again, anybody in this room can guarantee me such a border, yes or no? Quiet. Next question. It was over in less than 2 minutes. It was over. Because I didn't even hesitate 1 iota at all. Point. The issue that the Rambam brings down Lamaisa, Hilchot Shemitah, anybody and everybody. That I'm not this of the Rambam. I gave a part, a little deal. Who are you? What are you? You're a godly creation. You represent God. You are God. In a certain sense, you have the godly soul. How do you walk around? How do you project? How do you feel? How do you express yourself? Are you insecure in who you are? Well, come on, let's have a conversation. The Rambam says the Nakuda, the essence of the Levi is, Lisha say, you represent me. 24/7, you're imbued with me. And that's why you're the ones who didn't serve idols in Egypt. You kept the faith in Egypt. You were the rock which kept it together when everything else was splintering by the sides. Few, 10%, 8%, usually comes down to the few, but the few can make more than the few and more than the few. We all become part of growing. We grow. Never ever flinch in who you are and every element of who you are. Says the Rambam, you then become of the Shevet Levi. You represent the mission of the godly mission why he came down to this world. And when the Rebbe says, in all thy ways know God, it's not the pshat that I come to shul, that's when I know God. No. When you walk on the street, you represent, you emanate, you are the personification of the Malachas Goyim Kodesh, the holy nation. And the Rambam says anybody and everybody can be part of this mission, so to say, in life. You're part of the Levi. Part of the Levites. Do you understand what it means? Got to learn. I said, I'm going to get this. I know it's almost time. What? Stick with me. A very important halacha. Give me another minute. What's the halacha? I want to show you a difference. We know that the priestly blessings. On the holidays in Israel every day, the priests, who are, of course, of the tribe of Levi, bless. It's part of the tradition. Well, before the Kohanim go and bless, they have to wash their hands. So the halacha says, I'm quoting Shulchan Aruch Harav, it's customary that the Levi pour water over the hand of the Kohanim. I'm a Levi. I stand in line to wash the hand of the Kohen, of the priest, before they come into the shul to bless the congregation. Okay? In order, why? This custom enables the Kohanim, the priest, to add holiness to their inherent sanctity by having their hands sanctified by the Levites, who are termed holy, as it's written, and you shall sanctify the Levites. The Levi have the holiness, and they add to the holiness of the Kohen. Okay, the Levi, in the time of the temple, were there to aid the Kohanim in all areas of life. Okay, comes the question: what about, this is the question, what about if the Levi is a great Torah scholar and the Kohen is an unlettered individual? Okay, so we have an issue. The Levi is going to wash the hands of the Kohen. Okay, he's a Kohen, but he's unlettered. This is a great Torah scholar. There's a shaila, a discussion. Says, Ein tzorach litin mayim al yadeim shelezal b'kov teros. But halacha says that this position is one position, that he's not obligated. The Levi is not required to pour water over the hands of the Kohen, so as not to denigrate the honor of his Torah scholarship. Denigrate, well, wait, that's a position. But if some of the Kohanim are Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholars, well, then you do them all. Don't differentiate. But if there's one, then one. There goes on and brings down that if he wants to forgo his honor and pour water of the Kohen, he's allowed. And he should try to do that. He should forgo his honor to do it. But basically, the halacha says no. How? Says the Mishnah, but he should forgo it. The Mishnah Berurah says, interesting. Mishnah Berurah says this halacha, if the Levi, the Talmid Chacham, yesh lahachma. The Levi should wash yesh lahachma. He should wash the hands. Should. Aruch HaShulchan says, if he, the same case, lo yitzak. If the Levi, the Talmid Chacham, and the Kohen is not, he should not. And there are those who are very diligent not to embarrass the Torah of, but he then says, today we have different positions. Mr. Berurah takes a position, he should. Aruch HaShulchan says he should not, be'etzem adin. Al Rebbe leans and says there is two positions. He could abstain, but find it in you to forgo your honor to do it. Now, there's a lot to discuss on this. What the question of a Talmid Chacham, who the Talmid Chacham, what the Tad unlettered, and what about the inherent kedusha? Yeah, that inherent kedusha, holiness and sanctity to the Kohen by birth, biological. He's a Kohen, so he's not lettered. So, what's this deal of kivat tamatar? I wanted to bring this out, and there's another whole discussion about this, about Torah, and about how that plays out in certain situations. But at the end of the day, they all agree there's the halacha the way it is, and it's. But today we try to find a way that you do it, even though there were differences of opinion. But today, find a way, forgo unity, do it, even though you're the Talmid Chacham. No, forgo. As you get closer to this time we're in now, time of the Advent of Mashiach, when we're all going to be together, all going to be hallowed, all going to find way to live together in peace, all going to wait for the day when We're going to gather all the exiles and go to the Holy Land in a peaceful way, in a spiritual way. On and on, as the Rambam talks about at the end of his Rambam, Hilchot Malachim. All say, find a way, if you can, that the differences in the status, work the system and find a way, even though you're the learned one, the great one. And this one is more, take the limud from the Rebbe Marash, with Bella, where the Rebbe said, I envy you, Ella. The Rebbe says, I envy you. Because you're out there in the marketplace. And you're the one during the market, you're the one imbuing people with a sense on your level to the best that you can, like the sanctity of the Holy Torah, saying a word of Torah, saying a word of prayer, elevating the physical. We're not just talking about handle, buy, sell, buy. It's an opportunity when you get together to bring a word of God into that environment and hallow the environment. Find a way to do that. The Rebbe says, Bella, I envy you. You know what that means? Taking a more simple person and elevating him to that level where the Rebbe says, I envy you. That's the model. All together, in unity. I want to wish you to sing a little Chassidus song before we go. Da 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 yinam, ya ya da 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 yo yinam, ya la da oh yinam, oh ya da la da. Yilada yo yinam, na yilada yo yinam, ya yilada oh yilada yinam, yada yilada oh yada yada. Ayina da da da, riyama mama mama da ya da da, ayina da da, riyama mama mama da ya da ya, ayya ya da ya, ya da ya da da, ayina ayina. I let ram, ram, I let yinam, yinam, yam, mam, I let yinam. I let oh yinam, yada oh yada yinam, hey yada ma la da look freila chavra, hey. Hey, yo, la mai la la, oh, la mai la la. Hey, ya mai ya hey, ya mo, la mai la la. Hey, la mai la la. Hey, ya oh, hey, wish you all a beautiful week. Next week, God willing, I'll be in California. I have a wedding of my grandson. See each other, God willing, in 2 weeks. It'll be a week before the Rebbe's yahrzeit, so I'll be sharing a lot about that. Put it on your schedule. Love you. All have a good